Good morning, my friends. Welcome to the Fight Morning Quick Card Breakdown Show for UFC 294. Congratulations. You've made it. We're here. We're live. Let's make this short and quick. Thank you, by the way, for subscribing to the channel. What have we learned from earlier in the week through now? 13 fights. Abu Dhabi. A lot on the line. Belts. Pride. The arena will be filled. Blood may be spilled. Get ready, folks, because it's time. Let's go. Let's work through these fights. First bout of the evening, we have at middleweight, we have Shara Magomedov coming in as the minus 355 betting favorite. This line has been blown out throughout the week. You saw Magomedov, the line widen and widen, and he's taking on Bruno Silva, who is not a slouch. He's a fighter who can bang. He has, I believe, 20 TKO, KO victories, and Bruno Silva can crack. The challenge for Bruno Silva, if someone meets him face to face and can stand up to him, then they can hold their own. And the challenge here is when fire meets fire, someone will likely fall. And I believe that someone is going to hit the deck here at some point. Magomedov, typically a striker by trade. He's making his UFC debut. I was startled off of not only the regional footage, but the way his physique has changed throughout the course of time. Headed into this bout, I do have some heebie-jeebies. I was on Magomedov earlier at a much better line, and I have since arbed here. So we've solidified some profit in this spot. But Bruno Silva's live here for a potential finish. It only takes one to take out an opponent. And one thing that also struck me at the weigh-ins here, Magomedov is the taller fighter. And I know that it said he was the taller fighter on Tapology, but when you're watching the regional footage, I wasn't aware that he was actually, 6'2". It says that he is, but he was every bit of 6'2" when he stood next to Bruno Silva. Granted, I have Magomedov winning this fight. I do believe he will win this fight, but I don't feel comfortable touching anything 300, 350, etc. I believe if you got in early in the low minus 200s or so, you're set. And if you did want to arb there and get on Bruno, you'd solidify some profit. But the pick's going to be Shara Magomedov. Next fight, we have Victoria Dudakova, who missed weight, and she's coming in as the minus 500 betting favorite. She's taking on Jin Frey, who is coming in at plus 380. You saw a massive size discrepancy when you watched the weigh-ins, and Dudakova, she misses weight. She's the larger fighter. She's the much younger fighter, and she didn't cut the extra 0.6 of a pound, which was fascinating to me why she would back off. She did seem spent on the scale, and this is not a fighter who's invincible. When you're looking to back minus 500 fighters, you look for fighters who have minimal holes in their game. Dudakova, I've seen her on her back before. I've seen her in tough spots. Look at the win that she's coming off of. It was a injury-based victory, which you don't really put a lot of stock into it there. So I'm not going out of my way to play Dudakova at minus 500. And this fight, I think Jin Frey, unless she gets blown out of the water early, this could potentially be a competitive bout, especially in a larger octagon. Though you have to consider that in a larger octagon, if Dudakova puts Frey on her back, then you don't have the cage to work your way back up to your feet. So that's something to consider as well. But in this spot, considering the weight miss, etc., I will be picking Dudakova, but I don't think that she's worthy of a minus 500 betting line here. Look at the implied probability when you're considering minus 500. You need that to hit more often than not. Next up, we have Nathaniel Wood at featherweight taking on Muhammad Naimov. I watched all the footage you could get on both of these fighters, and Naimov, the thing that stood out to me, he can crack, but he's also robotic in nature and is very slow and stiff, and he also lacks proficiency in regards to a grappling game. And if you're able to take him down and rinse and repeat, I believe that you could potentially drain the cardio of Naimov here. And Nathaniel Wood is a fighter who can do that. Granted, you watch Nathaniel Wood's fights, and he checks off so many of the boxes here. He can grapple, he can strike, he's got great cardio. And you watched the weigh-ins, and Nathaniel Wood didn't look like a diminutive fighter here against Naimov at weigh-ins. You saw he was flexing and he was ready to go. So the size discrepancy, I don't think it's going to be a massive factor here. The one thing I do have concerns about is Nathaniel Wood's chinniness and his willingness to trade in the pocket. So I do believe Nathaniel Wood's going to come out here and win this fight. I actually went out and played him. One of the free plays I put out was Nathaniel Wood at minus 298. I believe that he's going to come out victorious the other side of this fight, but I also have concerns about the chin, and also Naimov on a full camp here. He has the potential to come in and spoil this party. So I am a realist. Though the hay is in the barn, the research has been done. Now it's time for these fighters to shine, and Nathaniel Wood is the much better fighter here, and he's got the much higher ceiling. You also have to wonder why he's taking this fight and why he isn't fighting against a quality high-level opponent. And also, we got to mention the Jamie Malarkey matchup at 155 pounds for Naimov. He came in there and did a bit of a number on Malarkey with a combination that sent him to the floor. And you have Malarkey was winning that fight, though. Let's be honest with ourselves. So the picks can be Nathaniel Wood. We've got a lot of comments here in the comments section. Let's see. Good morning. Yes. Good luck and prosperity to you, my brother. Stiff test for Shara. I agree. That's one of the reasons I ended up arbing here. And I think that in the UFC debut, you also need to realize that there are some growing pains that occasionally happen. The one eye is an issue. Yes, I agree. What if it swells up? What if he gets hit? You don't think these other fighters are targeting that one a good eye? That's a possibility. Yes. Let's see. We've got a few other comments here. Let's see what we got. Wood is better. He's hittable. Yes, I agree. All right, let's get back to business here. So this is about where you saw another fighter miss weight significantly in Mike Breeden, who came in, I believe, 4.5 pounds over, and he's the plus 210 underdog. This line has since begun to close, and that's the beauty of discussing fights on fight morning is you get a true line. You get to see with everything baked into it on fight day. We're only a couple of hours from these fights beginning, so this is an accurate line here. And you have Anshul Jubli, who is coming off of the road to the UFC victories, and he's a fighter who versus Mike Breeden. Mike Breeden, we know, can crack. Jubli, Indian fighter who, when you watch the scales, he did look like he was well put together, but just because you see a fighter looking great on the scales does not necessarily mean that they can perform inside the octagon. This is a situation where earlier in the week, I was saying that, oh man, there's value on Mike Breeden. He's the side here. And that still may be the case. But when you come in overseas in Abu Dhabi, this is your opportunity. And you blow it, missing weight by that much. And it's not like Mike Breeden is Christian Rodriguez. I got to say that also. Christian Rodriguez, completely different skill set. It's not like Breeden's going to come in here and look to wrestle and win this fight via grappling. This is a situation where Breeden likes to throw hammers. And Jubli, this is a fight for him to win. I'm in no way touching the betting line on either side of this bout. I do believe that there's some value on Mike Breeden, but I think this is a situation where you pass here. I'll be picking Jubli to win, though. I don't trust Jubli's skill set and what he brings to the table. And traditionally, Indian fighters have struggled inside of the UFC. I'm going to watch this from a distance with a icy cold beverage in my hand. We've got some other comments here. Jubli in hostile territory. That is true. I know. I saw the weigh-ins. That was interesting. All right, here's a fascinating bout. We've got Abu Izaitar taking on Cedric Dumas, and look at this line. Dumas blown out to minus 245 at the betting window. I don't trust Dumas at that line. I don't trust him anything north of minus 160 or so, to be honest. Abu Azaitar, massive layoff. He's also fought once in 5 or so years, and he's getting up there, 37 years of age. We know Azaitar, he's going to have the crowd on his side. He's going to have a lot of people in the seats backing him, and he's a tough guy. He's got family in the game, and he is going to throw with vicious intent, but he's very stiff out there, doesn't have a great gas tank. Cedric Dumas, wild man in there also. Granted, he can have some semblance of a game plan. I don't trust this fight going the distance. One of the free plays I put out was fight doesn't go the distance at minus 200. I think that there's a potential for both of these fighters to gas out. Things could go awry early for either fighter. I see somebody possibly either getting dropped or getting choked unconscious. Dumas much younger, much longer. I'll be picking Cedric Dumas, and after the week of tape study, I agree with that side of the game, but I also don't agree with this line in this part of the world with everything at stake. And you watch the weigh-ins, and Abu Azaitar is waving his finger right in front of Cedric Dumas's face, and Dumas is no, not with me, buddy. So Dumas is going to be the pick, and I don't see this fight going the distance. Now, let's talk a fight that has some interest here from a betting perspective. For me, Javid Basharat, I got in on him at minus 400, and this line has blown out to minus 535 here. You look at the type of fighters these two fighters are and who what type of fighters they tend to struggle with. Javid Basharat, he is a counter striker who is very precise. He's a fighter who is extremely precise, and he's an intelligent, cerebral fighter. Victor Henry, aggressive fighter with a great gas tank, who also is a very intelligent fighter, but the skill set is lacking. And at 36 years of age, I do have concerns about going deep into fights. Now, his plan, Victor Henry's made it clear. His plan is to push a pace, get in the pocket, and try to grapple here against Basharat and just overwhelm him with his pace. So Basharat knows exactly what is coming here, and I believe that Basharat's going to be able to snipe him, pick him apart at distance. And this is another fight also where it's taking place in Abu Dhabi. He's extremely motivated, and he is only 28 years of age. Arrows pointed up on Basharat. Both of the Basharat brothers their arrow is pointed up, very high ceiling for both of these fighters. I think that Basharat gets this done, and I could see him winning this fight via decision. So if you do want to attack that line from a prop perspective, that's one way of going after this. By the way, I hope you're enjoying your morning coffee. I am as well. Let's pause and have a gulp of our refreshing morning brew. Now, let's talk Muhammad Yahya against Trevor Peek. My goodness gracious. You talk about the fight game and getting the blood boiling. This is a fight where Trevor Peek, he is able to flip his switch in an instant, in a heartbeat. And Muhammad Yahya, United Arab Emirates fighter who is coming in as the plus 150 underdog. Remember, if you watch the lines here, Trevor Peek was originally a significant underdog, and this line has been blown out to now a point where Trevor Peek's minus 180. Does he possess the skill set of a fighter who should be minus 180? Not necessarily. But what he makes up for that in lack of skill set is his ability to win fights via aggression, brutality, viciousness, his pace. He's willing to empty the tank. He's not concerned about what's coming back at him whatsoever. And Muhammad Yahya here is a fighter who, granted, he's much more technically sound than Trevor Peek, but I don't think he's ready for the storm that's headed his way. I'll put it that way. Yaya, he will likely have some semblance of success early in the larger octagon here, but the moment manure hits the fan, I expect Trevor Peek to pour it on and get Muhammad Yahya out of there. I played the under 2.5, I believe, at minus 285, and I've been toying with the idea of playing Trevor Peek, but this line, it's tough, man. I think the value here is gone, and Trevor Peek is going to walk away victorious, but in the future, you need somebody who could take this kid's back and lock in a submission, because Trevor Peek is there to be had. And I like watching him fight. I'll say that, but there are potential fade opportunities in the near future. Now, let's talk a flyweight matchup. You're piped without any coffee. Interesting. This flyweight matchup puts Tim Elliott against Muhammad Makhachev. And Tim Elliott must be walking around with a little pep in his step, a little extra pep now that Kevin Kroom has taken a loss yesterday. I was aware that he paid the fighter and helped him out with his training camp, Kevin Kroom's opponent last night. I believe that was bare knuckle boxing. And the photos of Kevin Kroom after that fight, my goodness gracious. Now, Tim Elliott, you saw in the lead up to this fight, he was posting pictures of all the meals that he was eating, and he makes weight, and he looks massive for this division. These fighters had 33 hours plus to rehydrate. You saw the ceremonial weigh-ins. Tim Elliott filled out, and Makhachev at the official weigh-ins appeared to miss weight and got called out on it by Tim Elliott. I have a tremendously high hit rate on flyweight fighters, and in this matchup, although I see the aggression and the wrestling and the pace being on Tim Elliott's side, we also have to look at the fact that he is an elder statesman, either 37 or so, 36, 37 years of age, for a flyweight who has this many amount of fights under his belt. I think that Makhachev is going to be waiting for Tim Elliott to come at him, and he will be responding appropriately. Makhachev, he's got to worry about the physicality here, but this is going to create opportunities for Tim Elliott. Good morning. Good morning. Good to have you on board. Excellent. So Makhachev is going to be the pick here, and I think that if you look at the fight doesn't go the distance line, it has been sitting at plus money for a while there, so I believe that is the play as well. Now, Makhachev, could he get this done inside the distance? Yes. Is he going to have some problems with the awkwardness of Tim Elliott? Possibly, but he seems to say that he's going to drown out the noise and walk away victorious by any means necessary. The immaturity of Makhachev and his growing pains inside of the octagon are clear. We saw against Malcolm Gordon. Are you kidding me? One of the worst fighters in the flyweight division. He struggled for moments in that fight, and you saw how raw at times Makhachev is, but also we've seen Makhachev showcase his strengths also and his willingness to pursue victory by any means necessary. And I believe that the experience that he's gained, and also now being up at 23 years of age, and where this fight's taking place, we need to continue to mention that there are some difference makers here. And I think that Makhachev is going to walk away victorious. And I think that he gets this done inside the distance. Now, is it by submission or TKO? Could be by both, because Tim Elliott does leave himself open on the feet and on the mat by way of creating opportunities for his opponents. And that's, I believe, what's going to happen here. So Makhachev is going to be the pick. Now, this may startle some folks, but I'm going to be picking the underdog here, Muin Gafurov. And I know this line has widened. I have no play on this fight, but I do not trust Said Nurmagomedov's gas tank if this fight goes long. Said Nurmagomedov, the much cleaner striker, the spinning attacks, his range management and the way he uses distance, it's incredible. I love watching Said Nurmagomedov fight. I was on him versus Kakhramonov. I was on him versus Cody Stamen. I've been on Said Nurmagomedov many times before. In fact, I was on him versus Jonathan Martinez. And you saw the gas tank fail him in that fight. And I was on him also, Said Nurmagomedov versus Douglas Silva de Andrade. And that was a eye-opener for me as well. I have concerns about Said Nurmagomedov's gas tank. I think I've laid that out for you here. Now, Muin Gafurov, full camp. He's going to be fighting his ass off here, and he goes for it. He has a decent gas tank. He's been in there with John Lineker and others. Still only 27 years of age, so he's still putting his game together. He's been around the game for a long time, despite being 27 years of age. He's been in with Sarah and Longo. I was looking at photos of him 6-7 years ago. He was out here on Long Island putting in work. And Gafurov, he is diminutive. He's the much smaller fighter here. Granted, it looks like he should be competing at flyweight, to be honest. But the gas tank and the pace and the chin of Gafurov, I believe that is going to help him in this spot. I expect a competitive matchup. I don't think it's going to be as easy as folks are saying. And I'm going to be picking the underdog, Gafurov, here. But interesting fight. And I am a huge Said Nurmagomedov fan. I've seen him pull it off many times before. Now, let's talk Ikram Aliskerov versus Warlley Alves. Fascinating matchup where we have Alves, who did well last time he went to Fight Island, and he took on Munir Lazez last time out and shocked the world as a massive underdog. And Ikram Aliskerov, I was at his last fight where he brutalized Phil Hawes with 1-2, but Phil Hawes was actually having some semblance of success on the feet early. I remember being in Newark, New Jersey, and watching Phil Hawes come out to the Rocks intro song. You want to talk about getting the crowd off their feet? You want to talk about getting the crowd popping? That is what took place there. But North Bergen's own went down like a sack of potatoes. And Warlley Alves in this fight is going to have to put a pace on Aliskerov. I don't trust Aliskerov's gas tank here. And this fight's taking place at 185 pounds. So what has Warlley Alves done to prepare for this fight? That is what I'm concerned about. And Aliskerov was supposed to fight Nasruddin Imavov here. So interesting spot. I've seen Aliskerov sparked by Khamzat Chimaev, and we'll talk about Khamzat in a few minutes here. But in this specific spot, I have no play on this fight. I think that this is a crapshoot here. I think that Warlley Alves could potentially come in here and shock Aliskerov. I'll be picking Aliskerov to win and to win inside the distance, but Alves, as we've seen in enemy territory on Fight Island, he can come out and do something. He can come out and do something, and it's usually something that you don't expect. I mean, he submitted Colby Covington. That is a feather in his cap, and man, Aliskerov, he's still a bit of an unknown to me. Still a bit of an enigma, as they say. But Aliskerov, he can crack also. And we haven't seen much of his wrestling, but I know it's there. So but give me Aliskerov to win inside the distance. Now. Whoa. All right. Here we go. Oh, Boyes has a strong opinion there. Great to see you. Christmas presents. Yes. Good morning. Let's go. Let's talk Magomed Ankalaev, the best 205-pound fighter on planet Earth. But we must caution. We must. There's a disclaimer here. When you're fighting against Johnny Walker, throw everything out the window, because Johnny Walker, unpredictable. Anything's possible when Johnny Walker's fighting. He can come out here and shock the world. He can spark anyone at 205 pounds. I do truly believe that. But Johnny Walker does have many warts in his game. The takedown defense, the grappling prowess, the gas tank. the susceptibility to getting hit on the feet. There are many holes in Johnny Walker's game. And Magomed Ankalaev, I'll be honest, he's his own worst enemy out there sometimes. He's the highest skilled light heavyweight in the world. And man, he can be tentative at times. He had that fight against Blachowicz won, and things didn't go his way with the judges. And I understand what took place, but he should have a belt wrapped around his waist. Let's be honest with ourselves. He got his legs chopped off. He could have taken that fight to the ground with Blachowicz. We saw what he was able to do in that situation. We've seen the striking on display. Ankalaev has all the goods, but in here, this is the challenge for him, and he's facing somebody who can take his head off. One mistake, one small mistake creates an opportunity for Johnny Walker here. So I'm not playing Magomed Ankalaev at minus 360, even though he's one of the best, if not the best, light heavyweight fighter on planet Earth. But I will be picking Ankalaev, though, to win. And he could win this fight via decision if he plays it safe, or he could get this done inside the distance. This is a fight that could go many, many different ways. And if you've been around the fight game as long as I have, you understand that. So I'm going to be picking Ankalaev to win, but I am not touching this fight from a betting perspective. Yes, Walker is live to a certain degree, but this is a situation also where Ankalaev could come out here guns blazing. Also, he could come out here like he did against Iwan Kudalaba and just take him out of there. So it should be an interesting matchup. Now, we have co-main event of the evening. This is something I've been waiting for. We have a lot of live viewers here, and I'm grateful for everyone who joined in. Remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. That will be very helpful for us. I've been pumping out a tremendous amount of content on a regular basis, and I will continue to do so as I recover from this horrific ankle injury. And I'm working my way back every single day. Khamzat Chimaev minus 355 at the betting window. You look at this line; it's been blown out, and he's taking on Kamaru Usman, who's sitting at plus 280. You saw there was speculation that Usman was potentially injured during the open workouts. That may not necessarily be the case. Usman, I believe that this is the line. This is the true line that we have right here in front of us. Minus 355. How can you argue against that? Well, Kamaru Usman is one of the best fighters in the world. Folks have proclaimed that many, many times throughout the timeline. You go up and down Twitter. At one point in time, he was the welterweight champion of the world. He seems to have filled out here at 185 pounds at middleweight. And Khamzat Chimaev is the real deal. I mean, that's pretty much spoken for, but we haven't necessarily see it play out inside of the octagon in front of high-level competition. And this is the chance to put that on display. At one point in time, I'm going to put this out there. I remember tweeting that. How about welcoming Khamzat Chimaev to the United States crowd by having him face Cowboy Donald Cerrone? I thought that at 170 pounds, I thought that would have been an incredible matchup, and given the United States crowd a little taste of what's to come. But never got that opportunity. We saw Khamzat Chimaev run through Li Jingliang, run through Gerald Meerschaert, and then he tried to run through Gilbert Burns, and Gilbert Burns stood up to him. And Gilbert Burns was not finished at the end of the first round. This was a 27-year-old Khamzat Chimaev, I might add. And that I take away, I believe that Chimaev's stock rose significantly after that fight. I think you saw Chimaev tested in a way that hadn't happened before. You saw him go to the well. You saw his coaches in his corner. I felt like I was watching Ivan Drago when he was fighting Rocky Balboa in Rocky IV, and the coach was slapping him in the head and telling him, "Wake up, fight smart, do not get into a brawl." And Chimaev got sucked right into it. And I think that's what's going to happen here in the opening seconds, that his confidence level is so high that he's going to come out here and try to steamroll Kamaru Usman. He knows no other way. And there are certain fighters out there who their coaches really can't get to them. But Chimaev has the skills, and I do believe he's the goods here. And I'm going to be picking Khamzat Chimaev to win this fight. And I believe that he does get it done inside the distance. Kamaru Usman, though, we got to be honest with ourselves. He is one of the best fighters on planet Earth, and he's proven that many, many times. Granted, he's coming off of 2 losses that really put a dent in his stock. And now closing in on the older side of 30 years of age. He's getting 36 or so years of age. The knees are an issue. It's been mentioned. He's starting to slow down, especially on the feet. This is a fighter who's come into his own from a striking perspective, but his base is the wrestling, and that's his bread and butter here. And I don't think he's going to come out and start taking down Chimaev right off the bat. I think the defensive wrestling on Usman's side is going to be put to the test early, and he may potentially get slammed here. But if this fight goes long, yes, Usman has the potential to become live, even though this is on short notice up at middleweight. But give me Chimaev to win this fight. Let's talk main event of the evening, and the comments are starting to pour in. Let's see. What book? Let's see. All right. You think this fight's going to start pretty slow? Interesting. It popped to Usman. Yeah, well, we'll see. That line, people are jumping on that narrative, and I personally have treated it as noise. I believe that there was a lot of value on Chimaev if you got in on him at minus 250 or so, but now he's a significant favorite. All right, let's talk main event of the evening. We've got a lot of people here watching, and I am ready to go. Thank you for joining in. We've got Islam Makhachev taking on Alex Volkanovski. Volkanovski plus 205 at the betting window, and he's taking this fight on short notice, up at 155 pounds. I believe that this is a situation where the competitive spirit of Volkanovski may be his detriment here. I think that he could potentially be biting a little bit off more than he can chew at lightweight against a fighter who's now look at the size difference and the amount of hydration that took place. 33 plus hours of hydration now for Islam Makhachev. I believe that if Volkanovski is to have success here, it's going to be early. I think that he is going to come out here and try to find the target early and often against Makhachev, and he's going to have to do whatever it takes to keep Makhachev off of his back. And if the takedown happens, he's going to have to do his best to scramble out of positions. And that is a tough job against Islam Makhachev. I think that if this fight takes place on the feet for any significant portion of time, we're talking minutes, I think Volkanovski's the much clearer side here. I know Makhachev did have some success on the feet, but you talk about being robotic in nature. Makhachev is not a striker by any means. And I know people are going to post pictures and video of him having success against Charles Oliveira. I don't put much stock into that. Volkanovski is, I believe, the best pound for pound fighter on planet Earth. And I have not made a play on this fight. This is a situation where I just can't completely count Volkanovski out. And Makhachev, you talk about a switch of styles. Makhachev, up until 12 days ago, he had been preparing for a rematch against Charles Oliveira, and in steps Alex Volkanovski. I think that Volkanovski is potentially live here, but the odds are stacked against him. There are so many variables that are stacked against Volkanovski here. I just don't have the cojones to go and put the money on Volkanovski at this number or Makhachev here. I think that this fight there's the potential for volatility here. And this is a situation where you have one of the best fighters in the history of the sport in Volkanovski, who you just can't count him out. I can't completely count out Volkanovski here. If I saw a quit in Volkanovski or a spot where I think that he may look for a way out of a fight, I just don't see it. I think that Makhachev, even if he's having success here, Volkanovski, we saw what he did against Brian Ortega. He was put in that was worst case scenario, and he ended up fighting through that and winning the fight. So I just can't, even though this is an enemy territory, I can't get there. But I will be picking Makhachev to win. I think that if he does win this fight, it's likely via decision. Even though Volkanovski may come out and empty his gas tank early, Thank you. Thank you for the support. So the pick's going to be Islam Makhachev, and I believe that he wins this fight via decision, but I'm going to be rooting like hell for Volkanovski here. I want to see Volkanovski win this fight. He's great for the sport. You talk about an active champion who not only defends his belt, but also goes up a division. So you watch fighters like Conor McGregor, who he'll fight once at one weight class, and then he'll win a belt, leave the weight class, go somewhere else, and you never see him again at that weight class. It's really fascinating how this fight game changes and the metamorphosis of certain fighters. But the pick's going to be Islam Makhachev to win, and to win so via decision. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We have about an hour until the fights kick off. Go get what's yours. Thank you for liking and subscribing, and let's go out there and do our thing. So take care and go get what's yours, my buddies. Let's do it.